Hiya! You are watching VideoGaming Father's video review of a retro medieval action platformer called Cursed Castilla. Can you expect a dark fantasy story full of knights, monsters, honor and treason? Is it a good tribute to the legendary 80s classics Ghosts and Goblins? How about the game difficulty? Will your enemies be suffering or will you be suffering by punishing gameplay? Will you be fighting more with the merciless creatures or with the clunky controls? Are there challenging boss fights? Is the gameplay enhanced by some original ideas? Just bear with me and we will find the answers to these questions together. So who's the main hero and who or what is he supposed to save? The main character's name is Don Ramiro. He is the loyal king's knight and he was just summoned by the king to banish the zombies and demons that entered the kingdom of Castilla. This happened because the tears of a young witch have been turned by a demon into a key that opens up a gateway for evil in this world. This sounds like a typical dark fantasy medieval story full of might and magic. Despite not being very original, it provides a solid background for the computer game. Now let's take a closer look at how the game is played. After the very short intro explaining what's your mission, Don Ramiro is thrown directly to the action. There is no tutorial, just pure action from the very beginning. From the very first moment, your hero encounters various fantasy creatures like zombies, ghosts, little dragons or whatever it is, knights with shields throwing knives at you, or beheaded runners. And after several screens comes the first boss fight against the beheaded knight. After that you find yourself inside of some medieval castle and try to make your way through the new enemies like executioners throwing their axes at you, or a big worm scrolling from the bottom side of the screen. As you can see, the enemy are variable enough and to use various types of attacks, so you need to use the various tactics on them. So far so good. What kind of activities are you supposed to do to get further and what kind of weapons can you use to eliminate those dark creatures? Cursed Castilla is an action platformer, so it would be a big surprise if you wouldn't be jumping there. As authors of the game have not prepared such a surprise for us, you will be jumping between platforms either horizontally or vertically, but there is not so much jumping like in common platformers. I would say that jumping is just an addition to fights here and the game does not require precise timing of your jumping, where every millimeter decides about the success of your action. Cursed Castilla is mainly focused on fighting. You start with a throwing dagger and the other weapons you can collect by breaking the crates with the upgrades. Quite an original feature here is that you can decide which upgrade you can pick, as once you break the crate, they are changing in about 2 seconds interval. So you can choose between multiple daggers, throwing balls or even grenades. Each of them have their pros and cons. Some of them have a high fire rate but weaker effect, while some cause bigger damage but has lower fire rate. In general, the weapons are not bad if only you could have more than one of them. On top of it, if you die, you lose the current weapon and start with a basic throwing dagger again. Which is not very practical, especially in boss fights, but I will get to this yet. Besides the better weapons, you can collect various upgrades like life up, extra time, yes there is a time limit in the game, not very tight though, or a sidekick in the form of blue fairy throwing the magic balls at your enemies. In general, weapons and power-ups are variable enough to make the game interesting, and the only minus is that you lose them once you die. Which is painful considering that you can have just one weapon at the moment. How about the game difficulty and controls? Okay, I'll be honest with you here. The game difficulty is something that made me quit playing this game quite soon. Why is it so? Well, the first thing is that you have just 3 lives. In combination with very hostile environment full of enemies, it is a big challenge not to die soon. Just 3 hits and you are done. You find life up sometimes, and also the game does not let you repeat too long passages, but still it's quite punishing to lose everything again and again, including score. The other thing is that some of the enemies have quite high endurance, so you need to hit them several times to eliminate them. For example, the executioners have quite higher fire rate, and along with their endurance, they are rather challenging enemies. And they are still one of the basic enemies. If you have at least a high fire rate, it would be still okay, but the problem is that after throwing of 3 daggers or some other weapons, there is something like mini cooldown, which makes you very vulnerable for some time. Not a very good idea in an already difficult game. The moment where I quit was the battle with the second boss. It is a giant flying worm shooting fireballs at you, having many life points and vulnerable only on its head, while the rest of its body is used as a shield. It would not be such a big deal to beat this boss if only there would not show up the other worms on the scene once the boss's life points fall below 60% or so. Suddenly you need not only dodge fireballs and shoot the boss's head when it's uncovered, but also eliminate the worm suddenly appearing from nowhere. Along with your 3 life points and cooldown after 3 shots is a little combination, and every hesitation is punished badly. I am sure that it would be able to beat the boss, as I was at least twice very close to the boss' successful elimination, but thinking of what comes next simply demotivated me to continue further. The gameplay was simply too punishing for me. And it's a shame because the game has a nice retro feeling with cute, colorful pixel art graphics that can be even changed to have various medieval-like motifs along with the game screen like the good old times. Soundtrack and sounds were also reminding me of fantasy arcade games from 16-bit era, so there is not much to criticize the game for when it comes to the audiovisuals. As for the controls, it's quite simple. You just need movement keys, jump and action buttons. I was playing on the game on an Xbox controller and the controls felt responsive enough, so there is also not any major problem. Let's summarize it then. Cursed Castilla is a good-looking game delivering the retro atmosphere of the 80s arcade fantasy classics like Ghosts and Goblins, with solid storyline, variable enemies, interesting weapons and upgrades, simple and responsive controls, and nice retro audio visuals. However, there are some flaws that I could not get over. The difficulty that is rather punishing than challenging, the limitation to have just one weapon at the moment, losing all upgrades when die, and the cooldown after 3 shots that does not belong to such frenetic action as Cursed Castilla EX. There are the reasons why I cannot recommend this game for family playing, and it would cause rather frustration than enjoyable time spent with this game. Cursed Castilla costs €12 on Steam, and if you still want to give it a try, I would recommend waiting for at least 50% discount. Cursed Castilla is objectively not a bad game, but as it is not suitable for being played by fellow gaming fathers and their families, I'm giving it thumbs down, and VideoGaming Father's index 6- out of 10. Not recommended. Thank you for watching my Cursed Castilla video review. Please do not forget to give it a thumb up if you have enjoyed it, and also to subscribe to my VideoGaming Father's channel to be notified about my new video reviews. Hope to see you soon again!